Hello, my name is Ella Johnson, and I wanted to do my historical figure as Socrates. He was a brilliant philosopher, and yes, he was a philosopher. And how do you think he related to psychology? Well, I think he relates to psychology because a lot of what he believed in kind of focused on what we need to do for ourselves to make ourselves happy and focus on our self-care, mental health, and that's why I think that he is important for us to learn about in psychology, even though he was a philosopher. So let's start with his early life. His whole life, Socrates did not really record any of his teachings or anything about his life. So what we know about him is hearsay from his students and writings that Plato did about him that he knew once he had passed away or during the time that he knew him. So again, we can't for sure say anything. We just have the information, and from there we have tried to triangulate about his character and who Socrates was. We believe that he was born sometime in 470 BC, and we think it was the 6th day of Thargean, the day when the Athenians purify the city. His father was a stonemason and his mother was a midwife. So I don't want to butcher their names, so I'm probably not going to say many of the names of the citizens other than Socrates and Plato. So I apologize for that. But anyways, he then later married his wife, who gave him 3 sons. And he was a citizen of Athens, so Athenians required that all citizens be available to fight from ages 18 to 60 as long as they were able. And so Socrates served in 3 military campaigns, and while he was serving, he was known for his courageousness and fearlessness. This trait he later used in his trial. Once Socrates got back from the war, he started to focus on his philosophy and started searching for the essence of truth, beauty, and justice. He's most known for his Socratic method that laid the groundwork for Western systems and of logic and philosophy. He was fascinated with the meaning of life and how people live meaningful lives. He said that a life which is unexamined is not worth living. So he was saying that even though you think that you're like confident and you're living a good life, you need to always look back at it and examine it and look into yourself to see if you really are living a good life. And I think this was a good reflection that people can make to see if they feel happy, because you can live a life and it will be seems good to maybe other people, but then when you look inside, are you really happy? And so I think that's kind of what he was trying to say. He was very keen on self-actualization and improving self-care. So again, with that, looking into yourself and really seeing if you are happy and if you are actually living a good life like you think you are. Again, I think that's why he is someone we study in psychology, because as we know, psychology, we focus on the mind. And even though he was a philosopher, a lot of his studies and his lessons were about the mind and the self and how to improve on that. So I think that is an important reason why we learn about him. So Socrates was considered a wise man. He himself did not think that he was wise. He actually thought that he was very ignorant. Hence, this is why he was always looking for the truth and asking questions and constantly out there trying to find things out. So when he was told that the Oracle Delphi said that he was the wisest man, he didn't believe her. And so he spent a lot of time trying to prove this wrong. But every man that he went to and he started asking them questions, he learned that these people weren't wise. And so then he started to believe the oracle. And because he was able to admit that he himself was ignorant, he thought that he was wise, because in doing so, claiming his ignorance, he was searching for answers and always like searching for knowledge. And those who were considered wise, they thought they knew everything, so they were not out there looking for answers. So that's why I believe that Delphi did think that he was a wise man, because we all know that those people who, well, okay, let's start with this. The people who are happy with what they are, they don't like search to improve their life. And those of us in an academic setting are always trying to learn new things. We're always trying to improve in psychology and science, no matter what. We're never satisfied with one theory. Yes, we come up with like a theory, but we always have to make sure that theory is testable and be able to improve upon it. And I believe that's why Delphi was right. Socrates was a wise man. So Socrates was, of course, I feel, a very wise man, probably someone before his time. And so with people like that, when they actually talk about something intelligent and probably smart and the people around them should probably listen, that's when the authorities are threatened by what he is preaching. So, of course, when he was in his 70s, he was arrested and tried for his thoughts that went against what Athens considered to be the truth, because at this time they were in a fragile state of their existence. They didn't know where they stood in the world, so they clung to their past victories, which included a concentration on wealth and beauty. And Socrates was like, he scorned them for this, because he said you needed to look at the bigger picture and the beauty of the mind, not just the physical beauty and the beauty of gold and wealth and such. He said, to better improve ourselves, we need to look into ourselves. And so his teachings then irritated, of course, the wrong people, and he got himself arrested. And during his trial, there was a long period of time which he was imprisoned and nothing was happening. So then they had asked him what he would sentence himself as when they found him guilty, and he said that he should be celebrated and he should live a long life and have great food in prison. And of course they didn't like this, but he was right. I mean, if you're gonna ask myself to sentence myself, I'm not gonna sentence myself to a bad future. So he ended up having to drink hemlock, a potion with hemlock in it, which was a poison that eventually started making his whole body go numb until it reached the heart, and then his heart became numb and died, and he passed away. Now it's said that he had plenty of opportunities that he could have escaped, but the reason he didn't escape was, one, because of his military training, and he said that a soldier would never run away from a battle and would never run away from death, because that's what they stand for, and so why would you run away from that? So he didn't fear death, and that is another pretty respectable thing that I think Socrates had. Another thing that he was saying was it didn't really matter if he would have left Athens, because his beliefs would still remain the same, and they too would probably never be accepted by any other community. And he really did love Athens. He really was a citizen of Athens, a true citizen, even though what he was saying they seemed to think was against Athens, and that he was a betrayer of Athens. He really wasn't. He just loved the city so much that he wanted to see it improve upon itself. And when he saw what he thought needed to be improved upon and he spoke up, that's basically just what he was doing. Did he ever really talk against Athens? In their opinion, yes. But in my opinion, I don't think so. It's the way that I feel with our country. I wish that we could just not focus so much on discrimination and just literally come together and be a good community. And so, but if I were to stand up and start talking about that, I would probably be thrown in jail too, just like Socrates was. But they did say that his friends were able to pay off the guards, so he could have escaped. But again, Socrates did not want to do that. He accepted his fate. These are the sources. I used our book and a couple of websites I read about biographies, and tried to compile my own opinion from him. And I am really glad that I picked Socrates when I first started. You know, I knew a little bit about Socrates, but after really reading into him and researching him, I definitely feel that if Socrates and I were to meet, we would get along really well. We had the same beliefs and kind of the same thoughts on life. So I really was excited that I went ahead and did Socrates, even though I couldn't use a ton of pictures because there's not a lot of pictures out there of him. But I tried my best to make it creative. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.